What is Old East Frankish? Let's dive right into it. Okay, so to start off, what is Old East Frankish in like one sentence, more or less? That it is a historical West Germanic dialect from roughly, how far do you want to go back? Given the topic of this video, we're talking roughly around 800s, possibly a little bit before that, possibly in the 700s, what have you, but mainly due to the corpus which we will be discussing later in this video, roughly 9th century, so 800s all the way up to the 1000s, so 11th century. And we're talking about a dialect, West Germanic dialect in central Western, sort of, central what we call now Western Central Germany, or today known as Franconia, or if you will, Franken, if you will. So just to give a visual here, so we're talking about the on the map here it says East Franconian, but to make things more consistent with other German linguists or what have you, or German linguistics, what have you, we're going to call the dialect in question Old East Frankish, right? So we have here the map, and it's just of the Frankish, of the Old Frankish dialects, Old East Frankish is most southernmost, as you can see here. So we have the centers of the Würzburg and Bamberg. It's from these places where Old East Frankish is attested, where the documents I believe come from, or more or less, or written in the dialect of. This is in this locale or whatnot. However, this map is a rough estimate because on the roughly around the bottom left we have a Weissenburg. We'll see in a future video why this is actually a rough map, because if that was really the case, it would be among the centers, which it isn't, unfortunately. So this is a rough map. But moving on, so to go further, what makes Old East Frankish Old East Frankish? Well, the thing is, it went under the second sound shift, or if you will, the high German consonant shift, or what have you. All right, and because of this, that's why it's under the larger dialect group called Old High German. And the word German here is kind of used a little loosely here to really for Germanic, if that makes sense. So this is a dialect that was spoken by the Franks, and this dialect evolved into the local dialects as shown in the map, as I showed earlier, but I'll show again because why not? So essentially, roughly in this area or whatnot, and we're talking roughly around the 9th century, 800s, or up to like 1000s or whatnot. Of course, a lot of things have changed since then. I mean, it's amazing how many dialectal words from these places are still around, descending from Old East Frankish or what have you. So, to move on, this begs the question: what is attested? What is actually there as far as the texts are concerned? Well, in this video, we're going to go into a list of attested sources, and so people can. So for those of you who are actually studying Old East Frankish or want to see, have an idea what to look for, you can start off with there are glosses and names. So as far as glosses, what is a gloss? So for example, let's say. Because thing is, these texts are more or less written by monks, right, scribes and whatnot, and so they will be translating Latin text, right? So between the lines of, let's say, a Latin manuscript, you'd find like little Old High Germanisms, if you will. I shouldn't say Old High Germanisms, like Old East Frankish words under the Latin, just as a reminder for the scribe in question. Oh, that means that, or what you would have. Would be a list of Latin on one side and a list of Old East Frankish on the other side, so the scribe in question can remember what means what, or what have you, which is quite prevalent throughout this time period, where you have quite a few number of glosses, not only in Old East Frankish, but in other Old Germanic languages as well. As far as names are concerned, this would be like names of kings, names of particular monks or what have you, so important figures if you have you, or just regular personal names as well. But moving straight on, so from the 9th century, so we're talking about the 800s here, we have quite a lengthy corpus here, which is wonderful of itself. So we have the translation of Tatian, which is wonderful of itself. quite lengthy there. Then we have the Lexalica, which is, if you will, if I were to translate this literally. Of course, my Latin is terrible. I'm an old Germanic guy. I mean, if Google Translate can help me out, then great. So basically, law of the Salians, if you will, or Salish law, or what have you. Anyway, so it's a Frankish law, so to speak. But anyway, so we have the Würzburger Beichte, and Beichte means confession. So we have that, and then we have the Würzburger Beschreibung, which it's an interesting word because the word mark here is referred to as like a border, like a march, if you will, like how we say today in English, Denmark, the border of the Danes, if you will. So this is a border description, I guess a land description, maybe, possibly, but moving right on. So in the 10th century, we have the Fulda, or Fulda is a place in Germany. Fulda. It's a very famous place, actually, where a lot of manuscripts were created there, or whatnot, or affiliated with Fulda. And this interesting spelling here, I'm assuming it's kind of like slapping on the ER there to say, well, this is like as a adjectival form of Fulda, I'm assuming. So we got the Fulda, if you will, or folder, Beichte, folder confession, if you will, so from 900s and whatnot. And then we have in the 11th century, from the 1000s, the translations by William, which is interesting of itself. So given all these attestations of these texts, from going back to just glosses and names to the 9th century, to the 10th century, to the 11th century, hopefully this will help those of you who are doing research on these said texts, so you can find them and then read them and study them for your Old East Frankish learning. Now, that's a great segue to get into studying Old East Frankish, alright? So this grammar book here, primer, I highly recommend for beginners, alright? It's written by the Honorable Joseph Wright, the tutor of Tolkien for Gothic. It was written by this guy. This is my main source for learning Old High German, actually. So if you're going to start learning Old High German, what to say of Old East Frankish, for English speakers, please start with this book. Alright? The link to download the PDF of it is in the description below. Alright? I highly recommend studying from this. However, if you are going to actually start studying this stuff, please read this stuff slowly. Alright, this is not something you can learn overnight. You gotta treat it like an actual school subject, alright? So this is like pretty dense stuff, but this is wonderful for beginners. I love this book because not only does it have the grammar and also the historical phonology, it also has texts in there as well. You can study with this book alone for quite a while, alright? So for those of you who want more in depth of like Old East Frankish, well, actually, I need to take a step back. This Old High German primer here, it does deal with Old East Frankish, Old Rhine Frankish, Old Bavarian, and Old Alemannic, but it doesn't include Old Middle Frankish. That's one thing I need to point out before you think, oh wow, I can learn all the dialects in this primer. I'm sorry, that's not the case. So I want to put that out there. So yeah. So next we have, for those who want a more advanced study, this is wonderful. This is one of my favorite books for Old High German, especially if you want an in-depth knowledge, an intimate knowledge of like the phonology, historical phonology of Old High German. This goes in the great depth of all the dialects. This is my favorite book, actually, when it comes to this stuff. Like it goes to show how delicate spellings are in Old High German. Like one letter can make a big difference determining what dialect it's in. Yeah, so attention to detail is very important. So and thank to God that this is in English, right? So most of this stuff is in German. Speaking of which, we have here the Altfränkische Grammatik, and this is in German. This is very dense. You'd have to be pretty advanced in this stuff to tackle this. Not only that, you need to know German. You know how to read German to understand this as well. I haven't gone through this in great depth myself because I'm still learning German. And but it's like from what I have looked at it, it does do a great exploration of like of all the old Frankish dialects of this period or whatnot. So I'd highly recommend this for you want a very advanced study in that. Same thing with this one, you know, very advanced study. Again, with all these books or PDFs, if you will, links are in the description. Please read these slowly. Again, you can't learn a language overnight. This is something you have to dedicate yourself to and really want to know and have an intimate knowledge of, right? So, but it's fun though. It's very mentally stimulating, right? So, anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you're new, and if you really like the channel, please become a patron at my Patreon page down below. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.